in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining today's webinar, Economic Development with PROSERIS. This webinar is being presented by Celso Lopez from REMI, and I'm Brian Reel, and I'm thrilled to be the host. At REMI, our mission is to inform public policy. We provide software that allows government decision makers to test the economic effects of their policies before they're implemented. We work in the fields of economic development, tax, transportation, energy and environment, equity, and much more. If you have any questions about REMI specifically, I encourage you to reach out to us at info@remi.com. We would gladly connect you with the appropriate member of our team to assist. If at any point during this presentation you have a question, definitely enter that question into the question box. We should have plenty of time to go over all of them, but if for some reason we're not able to, we will get in touch with you through email to follow up. I also want to mention that shortly after the presentation concludes, we'll be sharing the slides and a recording. So once you have those, if you have any further questions, do feel free to reach out to us again at that info@remi.com address. And finally, I want to let everyone know that there's a new feature of GoToWebinar. If you've been to our webinars before, you probably know this by now, but if not, if there's any charts or graphs that are too small, you can actually click into the video that you're seeing of the stream of the webinar, and you can actually zoom in and out and then drag it around to get a closer look at things. So hopefully you find this helpful for the charts that you'll be seeing. That is enough from me for now. I will now pass it over to Celso.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Celso, and I'm excited to share with you PROSERIS, which is the new product that we've been working on here at REMI. And really what we've been working on with this product is a way to simplify economic development simulations and empower our economic developers, chambers of commerce, and universities to easily run these simulations. So for today's simulation, we're going to be taking a very basic project. In this case, it'll be these two inputs, which you see on your screen. It's going to be an initial construction period. And then from 2026 to 2035, it's going to be 1,000 jobs in the machinery manufacturing sector. So essentially, we're taking a factory, facility, and looking at the initial investment, construction, and then the operations forward. And so we're going to model that today using PROSERIS. And so a little bit more about PROSERIS itself. Again, we built PROSERIS to allow our different economic developers, chambers of commerce, universities to show how their investments affect their community. And of course, with it being a REMI model, we go kind of beyond the standard input-output modeling, but we also incorporate various dynamic components that will be present in PROSERIS. So we're also able to forecast population effects and other kind of dynamic feedback effects. And PROSERIS is built on REMI's model. So everything that's run through PROSERIS is going to be essentially coming from a place with open source equations and methodology that's been peer reviewed and established for over 40 years. And we're bringing this package to you guys for a lower cost. And PROSERIS is also going to feature a new interface. And our goal with this interface, which you'll see here shortly in a moment, was to make it as accessible and user-friendly as possible to allow anyone to be able to run a simulation with any amount of experience in economics or economic development in any field. Anybody should be able to use this model and run their simulations as long as they have some data. And so some of the different use cases that we have for PROSERIS are university footprint studies, economic development studies, which we're looking at today, and tourism. Now, for the university footprint study, we actually did a webinar previously using an earlier version of PROSERIS, and that's available at our YouTube page. You can also contact us if you'd like more info about that. We'd be happy to send you that webinar. Then on the economic development side, that's what I'll demonstrate to you here in a moment. And for the tourism side, ProSeris really shines because, first of all, because of that easy user interface, and because those kind of economic development components built into the ProSeris model really kind of allow you to paint a strong picture of the local impacts of tourism, beyond just the direct employment or operations, but looking at how a community shifts and adapts to the tourism industry. And of course, ProSeris has REMI AI deeply integrated into it. And REMI AI is a tool that we've been working on for the past 2 years or so. And it's in all our models, and ProSeris is no different. And it's kind of front and center here. And essentially, what REMI AI does is empowers you to use the results that you get from the REMI model and generate deliverables using those numbers. So with the REMI AI, you can build a one-pager, you can build kind of a PowerPoint presentation, you can build an entire consulting style report, and you also have access to a chat window, kind of a virtual economic assistant, if you will, that uses what it knows about the REMI model using our REMI model documentation in our custom training process to essentially answer questions both about the model itself, but also the economic concepts and linkages contained within the model. And so moving forward to the actual simulation here, we're going to go ahead and show you some screenshots of the ProSeris interface and actually running the simulation. Just a note that ProSeris is still in development. So this is a beta version, and it does not represent the final product. There will be some changes and improvements made to the final release version, but we're really proud of what we have so far, and of how ProSeris is shaping up. So we wanted to give you guys a sneak peek. And what you're seeing here is the kind of the creation window for the simulation. So you can give your project a name. And if we go to the next slide here, this is going to ask for a context of the simulation. And because we have REMI AI so deeply integrated into ProSeris, what this context window will do is it'll allow you to use the context of your simulation for your REMI AI results. So rather than looking at your simulation kind of in a vacuum and just looking at raw numbers, you're able to use your specific scenario into your region and all the factors that you want to feed into it to really customize your report and personalize it in a way that's most relevant and useful to you. And so moving forward here, the chat interface is going to ask us what inputs we have available. In this case, we have both construction and operations. So we have those both selected, and we'll hit send there. And, this whole kind of interface is this chat interface. And we thought this is a really great way of kind of, guiding the user and making it a more simple process rather than kind of looking through inputs in a vacuum. It kind of guides you through the whole process to make sure the simulation is exactly as you want it to be. And so now here in the chat window, it's asking about the different date ranges. And because ProSeris and all REMI models are dynamic models, we can kind of model the time series effects of different simulations. So it actually matters what date ranges we select. So in this case, we wanted the construction to start in 2025 and end in 2026. And then we wanted to start our operations from 2026 onward to 2035. So we have essentially a 2-year construction window, and then the rest is going to be operations. And so here we're putting in the actual numbers. In this case, we're putting in, first of all, our construction data. And there are kind of different ways we can go about this. So the model will prompt you about whether you want to use employment data or sales or wage data. So we have different options available, which are all explained pretty thoroughly. In this case, we chose employment just to keep it simple. But of course, if you have a different type of input or you have multiple types, you can, choose those accordingly. And then we're also choosing our machinery manufacturing as our industry for for the simulation. And of course, we have our kind of standard set of industries that we have in our PI plus models. So in this case, it's a 70 sector model. So we have 70 different industry sector aggregations here. And so here we're inputting our operations data. In this case, it's in thousands. So we have 1,000 all the way out to 2035. And so after we input all our data and everything, it'll ask some clarifying questions about how we want to display the data, mostly about kind of which units we want to show, just because, we wanted a way to be able to standardize the process if you're working on a report or a project that requires certain types of units. We wanted to add that customization. So after we've inputted all that data, it'll ask us to open the review page. And so we'll go straight into the results now. This is a whole new dashboard that we've built. So we're kind of giving you a sneak peek here. It's still in progress. So there are other new visuals and dashboard metrics that we'll implement as well. But we wanted to give you a sneak peek of this stuff that you perhaps have not seen yet. Because this kind of builds upon our PI Plus interface, and we have some, I guess, some visual components here that we haven't offered in the past that we're pretty proud of. So in this case, what you're looking at here is a kind of box plot of the employment distribution. So this is in 2035, and obviously machinery manufacturing has the biggest impact there, about 61%. But then we have it followed closely by construction, retail trade, and food services and drinking places to the right. And these are going to be your kind of induced and indirect effects that the model calculates. So not just the construction and the employment from the machinery manufacturing, but all the kind of jobs created as a result of the increased economic output and activity in the region. And so this is another kind of component of our results dashboard here. So we have our employment multiplier, 1.53 times. We have a summary to the right of that, kind of how we have in our PI plus models with a lot of different data points there. Our total employment, our induced GDP, personal income, kind of our high level economic indicators there. And here we have, again, kind of a distribution of our employment by sector. And in this case, it's one that we can kind of, we can animate actually. So there are some interactive components built in here. If we click that play button, or we can't do it here, but if you did click that play button, it would kind of go through each year and show that animation. And so on the left there, you have your 2025 numbers. And of course, construction takes the cake there because we're solely in our construction stage. So, we have a little bit of retail trade and some other industries, a tiny bit, but most of it is going straight into construction. But as we get our operations going and our machinery manufacturing plant is established in 2029, there to our right, we see that updated distribution with machinery manufacturing taking the cake, with construction and retail trade kind of tailing for in number 2 and 3 there. And this is a nice visual of price comparison over time. So we have our relative housing price, our cost of living, and our inflation shown here. So of course, with any economic stimulus investment, there's going to be a certain amount of price change. So in this case, there's a slight pressure on housing price and cost of living, although it's pretty small and in this case mostly insignificant. But what I want to kind of put your attention to mostly is this new kind of visual format that's in the PROSERIS model. So at the bottom there, you have a way to kind of change um, the view of which years you want to look at. So you can change that horizon, and then you have different zoom levels to the left as well, like you would have on kind of a stock chart. Um, and we can go to the next slide. So this is going to be the AI report page. Essentially, what we have here is the last part of the report, which is the REMI AI section. And we're going to be able to create whole reports from these results. So in this case, we've created this machinery manufacturing plant, and now from those results, we can extract. We have those blue buttons: Word, PowerPoint, Excel, one pager. Those are different styles of reports we can extract from the simulation. So the Word is going to be a full consulting style report, and that'll have kind of a table of contents at the beginning with an executive summary, an abstract, and then it's going to have different kind of components picked out from the simulation to really expand upon things like, your population metrics. It's going to go into that more in depth. It'll show you some visuals of that and a couple paragraphs kind of explaining what the data you're seeing is and why it happens in the model. And then it'll end with a summary. And then the PowerPoint is going to be similar, but it'll be more condensed, more visually friendly. It's going to have more of an emphasis on those visual data components in PROSERIS. So it'll really put the tables and the graphs at the front and center of that document. And then it'll have a couple bullet points associated with each one to expand on the data a little bit. The Excel there is going to extract the data mostly in a raw format. So you'll have access to the kind of the raw numbers themselves, and it'll also pre-generate a couple graph and chart components in that Excel document that you can then modify, change the theme on, and copy to an external report or any other document that you'd like, or just copy the raw data itself if you'd like to use that. And then, of course, we have our one pager, which we'll show you in the next slide. So on the right there, what you're seeing on the right is the one pager. And essentially what that is just kind of high level information from the report shown in a clean visual format. Right now it uses kind of default REMI color scheme and branding, but we're adding customization features. So we'll be able to modify all these reports to have, custom branding on there and color formats to be able to personalize it to your company, your organization, whatever it may be. And then on the left, that's a sneak peek at what the PowerPoint generator looks like. So this is just the summary from there. But what you can see there is it's giving you in plain text. It's giving you kind of a description in those boxes of what's going on in the simulation. So, it's talking about the jobs created, the local employment, and then also the kind of economic growth indicators. So the GDP, personal income, and kind of the overall positive trajectory of the economy from the machinery manufacturing plants, and then kind of the overall impact. So it'll mention the positive, and then the slightly increased inflation levels, and then just some high level data there with the average change in employment, population, GDP, and output. And that's it for us for right now. We hope you enjoyed this kind of sneak peek of PROSERIS. Like I said, we plan on launching this product very soon. It's built off of kind of our other models and the REMI economic engine. So if you've used REMI before or you're familiar with it, you'll feel right at home using PROSERIS. And we're offering free trials as well. So if you are interested, we'd love to hear from you, and we'd be happy to offer you a free trial or do kind of more personalized demo. And of course, you can visit proseris.com if you have any questions that we can't answer. And we will also be posting some updates on there.
Awesome. Thank you, Celso, so much for the great presentation, and thank you to all who have attended this webinar. We've received a couple great questions so far, and so definitely if you have more, I encourage you to ask away. We have plenty of time here. Again, a reminder, though, that if there's anything that you think of while you're reviewing the slides or the recording, you can reach out to Celso directly, the email address on the screen, or you can reach out to us at info@remi.com, and I'll make sure you get in touch with them. If you have any questions about the AI deliverables, also feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to, schedule a call to show those to you more. And some questions. So the first question we received is, what is the difference between this and InPlan?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say the major difference of PROSERIS and something like InPlan or kind of any other model on the market is the dynamic nature of the model. So I don't know who asked that question, but if you're familiar with REMI's other products, you'll know that the REMI economic engine has a kind of a dynamic nature to it. So rather than relying solely on input-output, we also incorporate computable general equilibrium components and other dynamic feedback components. So rather than assuming a static picture of the economy, we look on a large-scale time frame from the current out to 2060, and we also incorporate population components, so economic migration, the natural growth rate, and those are all factors taken into account when we run our simulations. So essentially, we're able to offer a more complete picture of the economy. And we also have a baseline forecast built into our models. So we're able to forecast, business as usual without the impact, looking at what the economy will look like at the 2060.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And another question we received is, how can PROSERIS help me connect with stakeholders?
Yeah, another good question. So, PROSERIS, at the end of the day, what PROSERIS is really about is communicating data and communicating with stakeholders. So, rather than talking about abstract concepts or why certain investments are beneficial for a community, PROSERIS is a tool that you can use to really demonstrate those effects by showing how different investments into a community shape that community in the long term. And we can get, specific with the data, or you can kind of keep it a little bit more abstract, but overall show positive or negative trajectories with your simulations and show how a community is really shaped by your investment and by the work that our economic developers are doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Celso. And it seems like those are all the questions we've received. So I guess we can begin the closing out the presentation here. Just a couple of reminders that you will be receiving the slides and a recording shortly after the webinar concludes, so keep your eye out for that. And then if you have any questions about PROSERIS after we conclude this, definitely reach out to Celso on the screen, and we'll be happy to discuss any questions you have and provide any resources we can. And so again, thank you everybody for joining. We hope you'll consider joining more of our webinars in the future. We hope you have a great day and a great rest of your week. See you soon. Bye.